In this video we're going to look at how to install Ruby on Rails on Windows. And there's essentially three things that we need to install, two of which we download directly. And we can download those from the Ruby on Rails website at www.rubyonrails.com. And in the working files of this document, I will give you that URL again and tell you exactly which files you need to download and where to find them. Specifically, the two files are going to be the Ruby language and Ruby gems. So let's get started with the Ruby language, and it's a typical Windows installer, so I double clicked on it here and it's starting up, and it's going to guide us through the installation. And I already have this installed, so it's going to give me a little bit of a warning that this is installed, so it's going to take a second here to write everything into the folder, and we just have to be a little patient while this runs. Alright, now that's finished. Let's go in. Now we're going to install Ruby gems. Now once Ruby gems is installed, we can run Ruby programs. And Ruby gems, the installer, is actually a Ruby file, a setup file. So when I double click on it, it's actually going to open up a little command window here and run this Ruby gems script to install Ruby gems. And there we go. That was quick and easy. Now Ruby gems is installed. Finally, I need to install Ruby on Rails, so I'm going to click on the run command. In the run command, I type cmd, which is already in there for me. Go ahead and open up a command window, and that's what we're doing here. And then I'm going to issue the command gem, which is that Ruby gems program that I just installed, and we're going to say Rails. And I got to include dependency. So this is actually going to install Rails on this computer. Now, on my computer, it's already locally installed here, so it goes fairly quick. On your computer, you'll need to have internet access because it goes out onto the internet and downloads the gem for Rails and then installs it. So this will take a little bit longer on your system. So now let's go ahead and create a little Rails application. So I'm going to call it Rails, which is I'm not going to call it that. I'm going to call the Rails command and give my application a name of my R app, we'll say, for Rails app. Now you're going to see a bunch of things fly across the screen that Rails creates, and these run Ruby scripts that create these various files for me. Now I can CD down into this folder here, and let's take a look into this directory, and you'll see there's a bunch of other directories underneath of there. Now if I run the server on here, so if I say Ruby script server, it's actually going to start the WebRick web server, and now I'm up and running. If I go into my web browser here and take a look at localhost port 3000, there we go. My Ruby on Rails environment is set up and running, and I can go ahead and get started doing some of these other things, which we'll watch those in later videos. If I close this window at this time, this is going to kill this process. Just be aware of that. Now, several other things that get installed here when you install the Ruby portion of this is there's several editors that get installed, and in other videos I talked about some of these editors, and one of them is this, I'm not quite sure how to say it, SCITE editor, and it seems to be a very decent editor. If we go in and look at a file here, it looks like it's nice, does highlighting in here. I have some options for setting those highlight. It knows that it's dealing with Ruby language, and I can tell it that. There's other options I can go in and have it work on stuff. So it seems to be a pretty good little editor. The other editor is more of an IDE type system, and I frankly don't have a lot of experience with either one of these since I mainly work on Mac OS X, but I thought I'd show you that these come free with the system, and they seem to be fine little editors. Now this one is specifically set up to work with Ruby, so I'm sure it has fine tools for working with Ruby and going in, looking at different aspects of it, and it looks like a fine little editor, and actually I think it actually is written in Ruby from what I can tell, so it's an interesting little thing. So there's how you install Ruby on Rails on Windows. In another video we'll look at how to install MySQL on Windows, and then if there's any kind of troubleshooting stuff we come across.